Okay, we are going to get started with the information session. Good evening, everyone, or whatever time it is wherever you are. My name is Camille Mathis, and I am the Director of Academic Programs for the Institute for Nanobiotechnology. And this is the co-op program for Master of Science in Engineering students. Luke?
Yeah, hi, my name is Luke Thorstensen. I'm the Director of Corporate Partnerships for INBT, who runs the co-op program. And we have a short video that we're going to try and play. And it's on our website as well.
The co-op program is an opportunity for a master's student to take a third option. Master's students here have an academic option where they just take courses, and have a research option where they do research with a professor's laboratory. This is a third option. The student gets to do a project in an industrial setting, but the student gets academic credit for the work that they are doing.
The program is unique because different from an internship, the students receive a full entry-level salary and they are engaged in projects for at least 6 months.
We view this as a great partnership opportunity between the company, the school, and the students. We see that the students are learning some very interesting concepts in terms of how to apply engineering towards solving these complicated problems.
They're hard workers, and they really, I think, appreciate the fact that they can come here and work on something that makes a difference.
Oftentimes, the student will start a project by analyzing what is missing in the market and what will be the most important aspect from the market perspective, using the available resources and the constraints they have to design a product that's both feasible and also useful. This type of research is not available on campus.
Through their classes, they learn everything that they need to about the academic portions of engineering, but the courses don't really teach you soft skills like negotiation, how to conduct business in a formal manner. The emotional intelligence that it takes to be a part of a productive team is something that is invaluable.
Unlike regular internship, I had 6 months, which meant that I could spend a full month or two to actually read, learn, and ask questions, which helped me actually gain a better or deeper understanding of the project and the overall scope of the project.
The longer period that the students are there, they actually exposed to setting of business. They need to communicate with their peers for longer periods. They need to take ownership for what they're doing. And all of that results in the fact that they are gaining a lot of experience.
My favorite thing about the program is that although it can be challenging at times, it's definitely a growing experience and you're able to learn from other people from different backgrounds.
The student gets to see people who are not other students, people who are not faculty, but people who are engineers, supervisors, operators, technicians, and gets to see this whole ecosystem of people within a corporate environment.
After talking to students who have completed the program, they said the best part of their master's experience was working in the co-op. They learned valuable skills that they would not learn in the classroom, and it's really helped them prepare for their career.
The first 6 or 7 students, I believe 4 or 5 got offers from the company to go join them full time. That's a tremendous record.
Yep, and that is actually on our website if you want to review it again. Okay, so what to expect with your co-op? So kind of as the video alluded to, with a 6-month program, you know, your first month or so is spent just trying to get a handle on the project. And so, or let me rewind first. So the program is currently offered to master's students in material science and engineering, chemical and biomolecular, as well as mechanical engineering. We are in talks with other departments. So if you're not in those departments at Johns Hopkins, not to say that we wouldn't ever be able to accommodate you in the co-op, but we won't be able to for this coming June or July start, because we need to come to an agreement with your department. So the co-ops are 6 months. With COVID this year, the start date was kind of flexible because I mean, typically we like the co-ops to start in January, end in June, or start in June or July and end in December. But the program is quite flexible with start dates and end dates as needed. You know, so we always thought it was a flexible program, and then COVID showed us that we actually are. We had students that started in October, for example, but hopefully all that is behind us for the most part. So when you go to the company, you will, and we'll talk about the admissions process later, but once you get to the company, you will have a supervisor there who will provide a project or a series of projects that you're set to accomplish during your 6 months. You'll be paid a competitive salary for this, and this just means that we ask the companies to treat you like a normal entry-level master's student hire. So we don't know exactly how much. We've heard ranges, but we ask them to treat you just like a fresh master's graduate student. And often you will, you know, with HR, you'll sign an agreement saying that, you know, any project you work on belongs to the company, and that's just a standard agreement.
Okay, so in order to apply to the co-op, you would need to send me an application package, and that would include a cover letter, resume, and 2 professional recommendations. And this application is in addition to the application to the Master of Science in Engineering. So it's 2 separate applications. First, you would be accepted by the master's program, and then you can apply to the co-op. We do have some students who are BS to MS students or 5th year students at Johns Hopkins, and they can do the co-op and apply in their first semester after they graduate with their bachelor's degree. Incoming students that are domestic need to have at least 1 semester of residency, basically taking classes on campus prior to applying for the co-op. International students need to have 1 full year of residency before applying to the co-op. So we do have a lot of international students in the program, and they usually complete all of their coursework first, and then they go on to do a co-op. We have the applications reviewed by a committee, and then Luke moves on to interview each candidate just to find out your interests, talk to you about your research experience, see what you can bring to a company, find out where you would like to work. And then after that, selected applications will be forwarded to participating companies, or students are given the opportunity to find their own placement. And that's part of the interview is coaching you to find your own placement as well, updating your resume, going over your interview skills and that sort of thing. So we want to prepare you to be successful in getting a placement. And the full admissions process takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get to the point where your application is forwarded to a company.
Yep, and the only thing I'll add, Camille, is that we do get a lot of questions about the professional letters of recommendation. So this can mean, you know, it's kind of a tiered system, right? So if you think about it, if you've ever had a technical engineering job, your supervisor there would be like the best because they have direct experience or direct knowledge of your working in the kind of setting for the job that you'd be going for. And then after that, if you've ever done lab work, your supervisor there. And if you haven't worked in a lab, then, potentially the lab that's associated with coursework. And so it's just kind of like, if you haven't had a formal job before, then, academic setting and then course setting. So it's professional recommendation is really just anyone who can, vouch for your work ethic and or skill set.
So there is a mentoring piece that comes into the co-op program. Students find a faculty advisor at Hopkins within their home department that has experience with that company's research area that they're going to be working with. And Luke and I can assist you in finding a faculty member if you're not familiar with who does what type of research. As well as students are assigned a research mentor at the sponsoring company. So you have a faculty advisor at Hopkins and you have a research mentor at the company. Now, both of these people are going to evaluate your performance and your progress together. So the expectation is that students submit progress reports in a review meeting every 6 weeks with the faculty advisor and the research mentor. And then they will submit a final essay and sometimes a presentation if you're in chemical and biomolecular engineering. That's basically you're presenting your thesis. And the essay is expected to be comparable to the master's essay. And we have you meet with the mentor and the advisor every 6 weeks so that once you start doing your final essay, it will be comparable. The faculty advisor will ask questions in these review meetings to make sure that your project is a master's level project and to make sure you're making the appropriate amount of progress and being able to get data so that you will have a master's level essay at the end.
Right, and it was mentioned in the video, but the co-op program is the research. We just go with the research track for your master's. So as most of you probably know, there is a course-based master's where you take 10 courses, and then there's the research-based where you take a number of courses. It's different for each department, and then you work in a lab for a year and write an essay. And that essay is graded by your faculty supervisor and deemed to be master's level. And so for our program, as Camille mentioned, we use that same track. And so INBT, me, Camille and I, we don't rate your program we don't rate the quality of your essay since we're not a degree granting part of the university. And so that's why it's important for you to have a faculty advisor who either, you have they already are your faculty advisor and you feel comfortable with them, or they already have some interest or some knowledge of the project that you're working on. And we, to date, haven't had any issue with either of those, whether it's the student wanting to use an advisor that is willing to kind of learn it maybe is just outside of their expertise, or finding hold on one second, or finding sorry, my dog is being very loud, or finding a faculty advisor for you whose expertise is the project that you'll be working on. So here are some corporate partners that we've worked with over the years. The video showed AstraZeneca. Them and Becton Dickinson have been the two strongest partners that we've had since the program's inception. A lot of these companies are regionally focused, and that's so that students wouldn't have to move across country. But now that, we have worked with students who specifically said, you know, after graduation, I want to move to XYZ. And so we've worked with them to try and find a role that would be in that city or that region. So again, that's something that will come out during the interview process. And so, you know, just telling us your expectations and your interests is key to finding a good match or placement. So you might also see that a lot of this list is dominated by med tech, biotech, or pharma. We do have other opportunities if you want more traditional chemical engineering or mechanical engineering. We have worked with companies, and some companies have shown interest who aren't on this. But that's just because most of the students that we've had come through are interested in those fields. So if you don't see a company that you're interested in working with, not to worry. There are some companies, and a lot of the companies will accept international students as well, in case you're wondering. But some cannot, like the applied physics lab at Hopkins, because they have a lot of their money comes from defense contracts. So Camille.
Yes, so there are a few policies that students have to go through if they want to do a co-op. Firstly, international students need to apply for curricular practical training in order to participate. Like I said, students do have to complete one academic year before they're eligible, and the application has to be submitted 2 weeks before your employment starts. Now, for non-resident students, actually, students have to apply for non-resident status before starting the co-op, and that means you can't be registered in classes. You would pay the non-resident tuition, which I believe is 10% of the regular tuition, and health insurance costs. And then you would need to apply for non-resident status 2 weeks before the start of your semester. And both applications are very short. They're very easy to complete, and we have specific offices that you'll work with. For CPT, you'll work with the Office of International Services. And for non-resident status, you'll work with your academic department to complete that.
Yep, so some frequently asked questions that we figured we'd put up. Applications are due for the June start, June or July, on April 7th. So it's coming up shortly. If you want to do a cohort after that, there will be a application again in the fall. And in the future, we will move to just one application a year, but this is a transition year that we're trying to streamline how many students. It's easier to plan and find meaningful co-ops for everyone when we know how many students we'll have in each cohort ahead of time. So that's a change that we're making in the future, but it won't affect you. Let's see. So the recommender, the letter of recommendation, that's one that I touched on. There are, in the past, I think less companies were accepting international students, but there is a demand for international students in specific specialities that you know, we like mechanical or can be, or a material science. So it's less so than in other areas. CPT, as Camille mentioned, is a straightforward application. It's a different, you know, OPT can take a long time to get, but CPT is straightforward, or much more straightforward. Let's see. Yeah, international students, except for those that have ties to defense contractor, and then some of our partners use the co-op program as a way to kind of test out or just, it's like an extended interview, like a 6-month interview process. And so some of them would rather not go through the visa process for the master's level program. So that's the other reason why they might not. But we're seeing that less and less, just as far as trends go. Yeah, and so I think that might be the last slide. We have a current student. Oh no, there's one more. So here, a sample timeline. You apply in April. You know, we have interviews throughout April. Yeah, in May, you're informed if you are approved into the program, and then you know, if it will be expedited for those of you. Like, let's say you apply in April, but you don't want to start until January. You know, you won't be interviewed first, like someone who's going to start in June or July, just because time is much more critical for those. And so then you'd, let's see, I think that's supposed to be 2021 for July 2021, not 2022, but that's fine. And then you'd finish some point in December. Ideally, if you started in June, you'd finish in December. And then the departments typically give you a grace period to finish writing your essay. And for KMBE students, you have to schedule your defense. And so that takes a little time as well. But this is kind of a typical timeline if you did want to start this summer. And so we have a student who is a participant right now, Hannah, and I will let her talk about her experience. And she'll just tell you what she's doing right now.
Hi, everybody. I was a 5th year master's student, or I am a 5th year's master's student, and I completed all my graduate courses right before I graduated with my bachelor's. And then, so I applied last spring to do the co-op. And because of COVID, things took a little bit longer, but I started at the beginning of this fall and should be presenting soon. I've been working at GSK in one of their biopharmaceutical technology teams. And my project revolves around looking how trace elements in cell media and feed can affect like key process and product parameters. You know, how does it affect what we make, and can we improve the process at all? And overall, I've really enjoyed doing the co-op. I've learned a lot from working in industry. There's definitely a lot more to learn, but you know, I got to actually go on the production floor and, you know, see bioreactors that are way taller than me, which was really fun for me, at least. And I really enjoyed that. And then it's in general been a very positive experience. My mentor at GSK is super helpful, always pushing me to like look into different parts of the company that I'm more interested in, or, you know, explore things as I like. And the check-in meetings with my advisor have been super useful. She's really helpful at like directing the project, but also it's just nice to go and have a meeting where 2 people like just help you out. And the project's progressing nicely. Everyone at INBT is fantastic. I cannot recommend them enough. And yeah, that's been my experience. If you have any questions, I can answer them now, or you can email me. And yeah, would recommend.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Hannah. And one thing that we've heard from a lot of our students is that even if you're, I guess, not entirely sure if you want to go into a career in industry, the co-op's a good opportunity. And we've actually heard, so students typically will either, you know, do the co-op project and then just go straight into industry. They love it. They like kind of their career path, or they'll see that maybe they want to go back and get their PhD. And we've actually heard from some students that when they're looking for labs to go into for their PhD, that their industry experience is actually viewed very positively. So that's an interesting tidbit that we've heard recently. But yeah, I would say that a fair amount of our students over the years have gotten job offers from their co-op, and that's one of the intended goals of the program, to set you up for success. And that's also why a lot of the companies keep choosing to come back and work with us, because, you know, all our students are just above average, let's say. So at this point, we'll turn it over for any questions. I don't know if we should you can just ask, and hopefully no one asks at the same time.
You can also type questions into the chat as well.
Hello, I'm Addie. I have a question. So I was admitted to the master's mechanical engineering program starting in the fall, and I'm deciding whether or not to accept it or not. And one of the things that I looked at is this MSc sample, this Excel sheet, which lists the co-op essay 3 semesters versus 4 semesters. And I'm having a little trouble understanding why someone would choose the 4 semesters versus the 3 semesters, or what the difference is. And my second question is, the timeline confused me a little bit. So if I'm just now going to be entering as a fall student, so that would be my first year in my master's program, I don't need to apply this April, right? That would be next. That would be next year that I would be applying to that.
Correct. Yeah, you could apply in the fall if the fall is going to be your first semester. If you absolutely knew that you wanted to do the co-op, and for whatever reason, if you wanted to do it after your first semester, which we've had fewer people do, but some have done that, then you would apply. I mean, you could still apply in the fall, but
I thought that I did need to wait 1 semester before I applied, right? That was one of the rules.
Yes. Yeah.
Before you complete it, before you participate, you would need to be on campus for 1 semester. But
before I participate, but I could apply before. I see. Yeah. I see.
You could apply like now if you wanted to get an early head start on kind of figuring out the best match for you. But back to your first question. So typically, I think what a lot of students do is spend the first year taking 2 full semesters of courses for the 2-year program. And then if you want to get the research essay in a lab, then you'd spend the next year working in a lab of one of the PIs in mechanical, and then write an essay. And so that would be your 4 semesters, and then you write your essay. Our program is the same essay, but instead of 12 months, it's 6 months. And so it is, I mean, it's a shorter timeline. And so it's just kind of what's more important to you, working in a PI's lab, or potentially working in industry. So if some students come to Hopkins and they know exactly that they want to work in a specific lab, and that's their choice to do that. But that's yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends what you want to do with your degree, if that helps.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, did we have a question in the chat?
Yeah, I'll let you take that.
So, the cover letter would be addressed to me at INBT. And then if we do, if you are applying to a position that requires a cover letter, then we could just kind of adapt it for that, and we'd work with you on that. But for the initial, when you're applying to the program, you would write it to us.
Hey, I'm Trevor from out in Utah. I have 2 questions. First question is, what is the acceptance rate into the program before looking for jobs, just into the program initially? And then second, I'm also got accepted to start my degree in the fall. if I applied in April, is there any, I'm kind of looking at this to offset the cost of tuition. Is there any chance I would know if I was accepted before the fall semester starts? So I could do my first fall semester and then do a co-op in the spring? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. So I guess throughout the program's history, we haven't had many students who weren't accepted into our formal program. COVID and up until COVID, we had a 100% success rate for students that were admitted to the program finding a role. COVID definitely put a wrench in the plans, so to speak, because a lot of our roles were lab-based, and so they required you to be at the facility. And so for a lot of these companies, they weren't letting their full-time employees come in, in June of 2020. So there were large-scale cancellations of co-ops and internships, as most of you probably know. And so the likelihood of getting admitted to the co-op program itself is very strong, or very high, because chances, like we haven't come across anyone who's just grossly underqualified or anything like that. I think just being admitted to the Hopkins master's program requires a certain level of engineering experience. And so typically the reason why students haven't been admitted into our portion of the program is because their I guess communication skills weren't going to be when I have conversations with our industry partners, that's something that they stress, is that they need co-op students who are able to function in a team environment. And so every now and again, we'll get candidates whose communication skills aren't, I guess, up to the quality that we would need. But those are fewer. That I can count on one hand how many times that's happened.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And yeah, so we would be able to tell you before the fall if you applied in April.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yes, I have a question. My name is Roderick. I have a question regarding like external partners. So for example, I have a previous employer that I worked with who I was talking to about earlier this week, and who were interested in this program.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? Like if they want to kind of like be my sponsor for the co-op, what is there additional process or additional steps to take?
Yeah, great question. This comes up a lot. And this goes back to where students find their own co-op program. So we've had students that have found positions, entirely on their own. And then what needs to happen then is that I have to have a conversation with them, because they need to be okay with you writing an essay. That's the biggest thing for industry organizations, is that often they don't want, there's trade secrets and other things that they don't want published. And so the master's essay is published in the Johns Hopkins Library, which is publicly searchable. And so that's just a conversation we need to have with them. There are ways that, and so obviously that's a problem, or that's not a problem necessarily, but that's a consideration for all industry groups. And so basically the way we get around it is, your faculty advisor will probe enough to make sure that they have enough information to rate that you're doing the work and it's master's level without giving away. You can still have ways of masking the exact details of the project you're working on that aren't necessary for the faculty to judge the merit of the program, that don't give away the details. But then also we have a way to block the quote unquote publication for 4 years in the library. So you'd turn it in, you'd get credit, and then the library wouldn't hit, publish on the document for 4 years. So between all of that, we really, again, going back to APL and they're basically the only group that we've made it all the way through with a student about to start a project, and then the Navy said we can't have this published. So it's not something that it's something that we can usually work around. But yeah, so there shouldn't be any problem there, assuming that the company is comfortable with an essay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Do we have questions in the chat, Camille, or are you answering those?
Answering them.
Okay.
I actually have a question for Hannah, if she doesn't mind. So I'm a mechanical engineer who's very interested in chemical engineering. So I like to be at the interface of both of those fields, kind of, and my research has reflected that in my undergrad study tab. Do you think that JSK would have taken me as a mechanical engineer, or do you think that being a chemical engineer was pretty much required for your position?
I think maybe for the specific project that I'm working on, that might have been important, but there's a lot of mechies working at GSK, so they might have something else that is like more in between. And to be honest, the thing I'm working on is kind of a, kind of a little bit chemistry, but also a little bit bio. And so I know, at least they told me that in the interview, they were happy that I knew what a protein was and stuff like that, and how amino acids become proteins. So I think like, so in that case, that was I feel like some knowledge that was added, and that might have come from the biomolecular part of the curriculum at Hopkins. But they have all sorts of people working there, and I've talked to a lot of mechies and EEs that I need for help with other projects. So I think that they might have something. So
thank you.
You have to see.
Yeah, and just to further emphasize that point, we've had mechie students who have worked on like stem cell projects. It's really, and then like hydrogels. I mean, it's the education. I can only kind of speak for Hopkins, but it's really kind of I guess a holistic approach, and a lot of our faculty are, including in Mechie, are very much active in bioengineering. So I don't see that as a constraint. It's really more about and this is something that we'll go over in the interview process, but on your resume, when you list like your lab skills, I mean, that's, and especially if you've worked in a bioengineering lab before, that's the most important thing. You want to kind of have that front and center for, like, if you're applying for a technical role, then your technical skill set is really key. And so that's what recruiters will look for the most.
All right, thank you. That was very helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, I have a question. My name is Michelle. So if you are, if you anticipated being admitted into this program, would you guys recommend then going for the 3-semester track or the 4-semester one, since the co-op would already give you the research part of your master's, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess your career path and trajectory is really up to you. We've had students do the co-op in every possible way forward. We've had students that have worked in labs, while they're taking classes, and then done co-op. We've had students who did the co-op in their second semester because they didn't need to be at the university for a year to get that international. To get CPT, you have to work. Or to get CPT, you have to have gone to school for at least a year to qualify. But if that's not necessary, we've had students take a semester, go do the co-op and come back and take more coursework. But if you are thinking seriously about a career in industry, since a lot of companies use this as a recruiting tool, then you probably want to finish your coursework first and then do the co-op. That said, if you are a standout worker, we have had companies who say, go finish your coursework and you have a job waiting for you when you're formally done with your master's. But it's just kind of, it's really up to you as far as if you know you want to work in industry, then I would suggest finishing your coursework so then the company can hire you directly at the end of the co-op, or you can just jump to another part of industry.
So, do students usually do the co-op while taking classes, or you have to not take classes? Still I was admitted for the fall, right? So you're saying that I'll probably, if I get admitted, I'll probably start in the spring. So does that mean that I won't be taking classes during the spring?
Well, yeah. No, and that's so so in order to do the co-op, you have to you're non-resident, and that means by necessity you aren't taking courses, and that's just how it's set up with the registrar. So you aren't actually able to take courses while you do it, and that's part of it. That this is you get a full-time job and to see how you like working in industry 40 hours a week without thinking about finals or anything like that, because it really is an immersive experience. Now you don't have to, if you're just admitted and the fall is going to be your first semester, then you don't have to start in the spring. And I would say historically a lot of our students have done the full year of courses, so you start in the fall, take classes all fall, take classes all spring, and then you start in the summer of 2022. So that's what most students have done throughout the history of the program. We're just the timeline that we put up there was just an example. But it's definitely not what you have to follow, because again it's really up to you, and kind of what fits best with your career plans.
So I'll piggyback off of that and say, not all classes are offered in every semester. So you do want to kind of plan your courses with your academic coordinator in your department, and get that solidified in your first semester. That way you can plan for when you're going to do the co-op.
Okay, thank you.
And oh yeah, no problem. And one other thing that I wanted to add is, if you do, one thing that faculty have asked us to mention is that if you do plan on doing the co-op, when you ask if you can work in their lab, that you mention that that you were planning to do the co-op, because I think they would still give you some opportunities to develop some skills in your lab or in their lab, but they might expect you to stay for the full time after your coursework and finish your master's with an essay based on their lab work. So they've just asked us that we mentioned to students that if you do want to do both, that you mention to the lab that you're thinking of doing co-op.
I have a question. Do you know of any other programs like this at other schools of similar caliber?
So I mean, similar caliber, no. As far as I know that as far as master's co-ops go, I think Drexel has some. and I think Northeastern in Boston. And so on the East Coast, those are the only two that I know of for master's students.
Yeah. This is a pretty unique and attractive program. That's why I asked, in case you knew of any others.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Northeastern program is quite large, and it's run with their undergrad as well. And also on the call we have Mark Savage, who's the advisor for life design for master's students, and once upon a time he ran the co-op at Cornell, and I don't think they have master's students, but he can maybe confirm that. And yeah, he's shaking his head no. So
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, I'm Sandra. Yeah, so I would like to know if most of the positions are like research scientists within the company or as process engineer. I'm going into the CAN-B program, so I would like to know what sort of like skills we should emphasize in that sense.
Yeah, well, so the opportunities are different across each partner. You know, if you go to like a large pharma like GSK or like AstraZeneca, you know, typically their like therapeutic or drug development teams are going to be more PhD focused, and their process engineering or assay development, quality control, quality assurance, or just optimization of manufacturing capabilities. Those are more master's engineering, I guess, career paths. And that's kind of one of the things that is, I guess, taught over and over again through this program, is that, you know, it's just like a different career path for a master's engineering student versus someone with a PhD. It's going to be, you know, you can still lead a team at like a large company if you want, but it'll be like the team you would lead would be in like quality control or process optimization. It's less that the kind of drug discovery is done by you know, master's students or like someone with a master's degree. Now that's at large companies. Smaller companies present you know, a different, a unique opportunity that, you know, you can work on product development, you can work on other maybe drug development, maybe it's you know, maybe you're a mechanical engineer and it's like designing the, you know, the actual air coil for the cooling system that Baltimore Air Coil is one of our partners. So it's depending on the type of field you want to go into, and if it's a startup versus a large pharma, it's going to be a lot different. You're going to be exposed to a lot different opportunities.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Ian Liu, and I have a question to Luke.
Sure.
So I'm actually a new admitted student for the fall 2021 session. So I basically have a kind of career or a research interest in additive manufacturing, like 3D printing. Do you have the same kind of experience with the students who are, you know, looking for the same career path for the co-op program? And do you think if this is a good fit for me?
Yeah, sure. So I don't, Camille, I don't know if we've had any specific 3D printing projects, but that's not to say that that's it's not a possibility. It's just so far, I don't know if any students have have said that that's the kind of project they really wanted. one of the strengths of the program is that, you know, we can actually help you find, I guess you're not your, I mean, we can help you find a job that would help you achieve your goals, whether that's, regionally based or, focused in a specific niche. We have had success finding students roles that, we hadn't worked with before. As I mentioned, historically, our strongest partners have been AstraZeneca and Becton Dickinson. But as the program continues to grow, we keep adding more partners and more opportunities. And as Camille mentioned too, you're not just limited by who we know. So it just kind of, I think at that point, especially if it's outside of a group that we've worked with, and it's, it more stands on your merits of your resume. And also the Johns Hopkins name doesn't hurt for, I guess, name recognition.
Okay. I saw that the student will find a GHU faculty advisor. I've been reaching out to professor at GHU, and then I really like his research topics. And is it possible for like master student do research and the co-op program in the same time, to keep the two paths in the same time?
Yeah, sure. It's another good question. I mean, we've had, like I said, we've had students that did work in a lab for a long time, but then also did the co-op program. And so it's not that it's not possible. It's just you can't, like, literally at the same time, you wouldn't be able to work in the lab and at the co-op, because to do the co-op, as we mentioned, you have to go to, it's a full-time job for 6 months. So it's, 8 to 5 every day. And you have to do non-resident tuition, which means you're not, coming to campus for classes and probably not able to work in the labs.
So for the non-resident tuition, so during the co-op, we still need to pay tuition, even though when we are not in the campus.
Yep. You still have to pay 10% of your the normal rate.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and there are faculty, as you alluded to, who do work with 3D printed materials, and so I think as that portion of Hopkins grows, and they start, and I know those faculty are working with companies and or startups, and so as that portion of Hopkins just larger portfolio continues to grow, then it's easier to send students to those companies, because they already have a working relationship with Johns Hopkins, or they know of the faculty who's 3D printing tracheas. So
and I have a side question. So I know the co-op is for masters or senior for undergraduate. Is it possible for PhD student also, or is this only for masters?
It's only for master's students.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, well, our emails are up there. So I don't know if Mark wants to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. So I'm Mark Savage. I'm the life design educator for engineering master's students. And I've worked with a number of the students who are on their co-op, and as they were completing their programs and also maybe looking at other opportunities, worked with them on resumes and strategic job search issues and networking and things along those lines. Also would be available to work with you on resumes as you go into the co-op program as well. I just think it's a great program. As Luke mentioned, I ran a co-op program at Cornell for many years, also with career services, but it was all undergrad. And I think the two programs that Luke mentioned that have master's level co-ops, Northeastern and Drexel, at the undergraduate level, everybody does co-op at those schools. So, there are a few schools around the country that have required co-op. The University of Cincinnati is another one, Rochester Institute of Technology, things along those lines as well. So, my services are available to any and all of you as well when you need those.
Yep, thanks, Mark. And yeah, Mark has helped a number of students over the last few years apply and get their resume in order before applying to both the co-op and outside opportunities. So I recommend speaking with him, because even everyone needs help with their resume. Let's see. I think there's more coming on in the chat. Okay, so the question about the INBT website, it's the co-op program is not those are faculty members that are actually in the INBT. We have a building and we have associated faculty members. The co-op program just needs to be a supervisor, your supervisor from Hopkins just needs to be from your department. They don't have to be affiliated with INBT. And in fact, I think right now, out of the probably 40% of the current faculty advisors aren't in INBT, but they do need to be from your department. And does someone else have a question?
Yeah, hi, my name is Anderson. I have one question, because you mentioned something about you have to be a master's student for one semester before you can apply to the program. Is that correct?
Right. So yes, if you're not a undergraduate to graduate student and you don't require CPT, then you have to have one semester of coursework before you can participate.
So I'm a Hopkins undergrad and I'm not in the five-year program, but it will take me 1 year to do my master's. So I would like to actually do it in the fall if I could, rather than push it back to the spring. So would I still have to do the one semester, or can I just apply?
No, so undergraduate students are able to just, if you wanted to start this summer, if you wanted to start in June, then you would apply by April 7th.
Okay.
And then you take your coursework after the co-op.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sure. Yep. And so I think now is probably a good time to end. We have our emails there, so please reach out if you have questions about opportunities or anything about the corporate side. Please email me, and then any questions about the academic side, please email Camille. Or if you just want to, if you don't know and want to CC both of us, then that's fine as well.